What's up, fellas? In today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 NBA teams that have the most on the line this postseason, whether that be to their players' legacies, whether that be to future roster moves, whether that be to free agency. There are 5 teams in this postseason that I feel like have more on the line than any other teams, and that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Quickly, before we get started, I like to remind people I upload every single day on this channel, so if you're looking for the most consistent NBA content on all of YouTube, this is a great place to be. Consider subscribing. You can also leave a like rating on the video as well, and you can check me out at various socials and a Linktree link down in the description below, including today. By the time you're watching this, it's pretty likely that I'm live right now on Twitch. I'm going to be playing some 2K today. I have not played 2K21 all year long. I'm going to try it out today because it's free right now. Come hang out. If you feel like talking about basketball, you feel like talking about whatever, the link is down in the description. With all those things said, let's go and get into the list. So the first one is kind of the inspiration for this list, and it's the LA Clippers. This is not really a possibility that I considered all that heavily right up until we saw the Clippers be the Clippers in game 1 against Dallas. They play again tonight, so we'll see what happens. And it's very possible that the Clippers are in the Western Conference Finals a couple of weeks from now, and everything that I'm about to talk about is irrelevant by that point. But the possibility exists that there is an awful playoff loss still in this team, whether that be in the first round to Dallas, whether that be in the second round to a team that most people feel like they shouldn't lose to. When you really look at the bracket, it feels like this should be a year that the Clippers are really successful in the postseason. The Lakers are beat up. There's some other teams missing guys, and the Clippers certainly have all the talent in the world to make a postseason and a championship run. But if you want to make the case that this team is just cursed or they just don't have it in them to make a championship run, the possibility exists that Kawhi Leonard leaves this offseason. I've talked about this in previous videos. It seems like the two destinations that could possibly be in play, doesn't seem like they're in play right now, but could be, would be Miami and the Knicks. And if for some reason LA loses in 5 or 6 games in the first round or loses a series that isn't all that close in the second round after the changes that they made to the coaching staff, after some of the minor changes that they made to the roster, you could see a situation that is this doomsday situation we've talked about before for LA. It got pushed back a little bit once Paul George signed his extension, but the possibility still exists that Kawhi just does not believe in the Clippers franchise anymore. And I understand that he likes where he is geographically. He likes being in LA, but for a guy that really likes to have success in the postseason, if that doesn't happen with the Clippers, there's really no upside to this roster. They don't have any future picks. They don't have any way to improve the group. And if they struggle again in the postseason, he could start looking at other options. There's a ton on the line there for the Clippers. It's one of the teams that I'm watching very, very closely. Selfishly, I think it'd be kind of cool if we kind of spiced up this free agency class by Kawhi potentially leaving to go somewhere else if the Clippers do have a bad postseason loss. But ultimately, everybody's going to be paying attention to that group. Next up now, this isn't necessarily in order, but the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo specifically. So they go up 2-0 last night. They beat the Heat. Good for them. But in this postseason as a whole, they've got to have some kind of run of success here. Worst case, they've got to make it to the conference finals. Otherwise, I think Coach Bud is gone, and they're really going to start to evaluate what they need to do because there's not a lot of options for them in terms of changing around this roster. The Drew Holiday trade, whether it be from a payroll standpoint, from a trade asset standpoint, was the last piece of the puzzle for them. That was the last real move that they had available to them. Now they don't have any future picks. They don't have any way to bring in anybody in free agency. They don't really have any movable contracts, only really a small amount of trade assets, that being Dante DiVincenzo. It would have been wonderful after you see how Bogdanovich has played in Atlanta. Would have been awesome if they would have gotten that trade to go through, and I don't even know what this roster would have looked like, with him there as well and some of his perimeter creation. But for Milwaukee specifically, they have to make a run in this postseason to legitimize themselves as postseason threats, to keep Coach Bud's job, and so everybody will take them seriously. If they flame out once again in the postseason and they don't even make the Eastern Conference Finals, nobody's going to take Giannis seriously, and they could win 65 games next year, and nobody will really care. A lot on the line for them. Thankfully for them and for their fans, they don't have to deal with the Giannis stuff. He already signed the extension. I can't even imagine what this postseason would look like for Milwaukee, the amount of pressure on this group if Giannis did not already sign that extension before the season. Thankfully he did, and there's not that amount of pressure, but there's still a lot going on here as it relates to the front office, the coaching staff, and the players if the Bucks are going to be a team that we're going to be taking seriously over the next couple of seasons. Next up now on the list, the LA Lakers. And it might seem a little bit odd, right? Because it's the team that won the championship last year. It's been a weird season. They've dealt with injuries. They've dealt with protocol stuff. There's all kinds of strange things happening here. But ultimately, if they don't perform, people are going to further illegitimize Is that the phrasing I'm looking for here? They're going to continue to discount the championship that the Lakers won last year because it wasn't the strongest path to a title in NBA history, certainly. And people are just going to continue to discredit that and say, well, they won it in the bubble and all these different things that we've talked about in the past. And specifically, if they don't even get out of the first round, which, I mean, they're in the 2-7 matchup. You wouldn't expect them to get out of the first round, and Phoenix is very good. There's still a lot left to play in that series with the Chris Paul injury. How is Anthony Davis going to come back and play? Is LeBron even healthy? All that stuff. But if you just fast forward, let's say the Lakers lose in the first round to Phoenix, the excuses are going to come out, right? Anthony Davis is going to say that, I wasn't that healthy. LeBron's going to say the same thing. They had the quick turnaround. They just played in the bubble. They won the title last year. But nobody's going to give them any excuses. Nobody's really going to give them a pass. You do not expect the defending champion who won for some people, slightly discredited title in the bubble last year to come back and then not even make it out of the first round of the following year. They've got to at least do something in this postseason or people are just going to take a lot away from them. Next up, Utah in a very similar situation to the Lakers as well as the Bucks. They need to be taken seriously in the postseason. This is a team that's been there, but they haven't really been a true threat. Thankfully, the Clippers lost a 3-1 lead last year in the postseason. Otherwise, we would have talked a lot more about the fact that the Jazz gave up a 3-1 lead in the first round of the postseason last year to the team that ultimately ended up making the conference finals in the Denver Nuggets. A lot of the potential issues with Utah were kind of exposed in game one. Donovan Mitchell doesn't play. It looks like he's going to play in game two. They didn't hit the three-point shots they needed to. They're very reliant on knocking down threes, as is pretty much every team in the league right now. And then defensively, something that is supposed to be their calling card, John Morant, Dillon Brooks pretty much got wherever they wanted to on the floor, and Rudy Gobert was there, but he also ended up fouling out, and they really worked kind of that in-between area, which has been kind of a weakness of Utah's defense, but that's kind of the case for a lot of teams. And ultimately, there's no doubt in my mind that Utah is good. Utah's a very good team. You don't get the 1 seed in the West. You don't have the best record in the league by accident. But if they don't perform in the postseason, especially if they lose the 1-8 matchup to Memphis, nobody's going to care that Donovan Mitchell missed the first game. Nobody's going to care about any of that. If they somehow lose the 1-8 matchup to Memphis, that's going to be a disaster for them. But even if they don't even make the conference finals, people are just going to continue to see them as a fraud. They're going to give off 60-win Hawks vibes, where every time they get to the postseason, they have a good record. Nobody's going to take them seriously. Again, I think they're good. I think Phoenix is really good. I quite frankly, when fully healthy, think Phoenix is better. But there's a lot on the line here for Utah in terms of legitimizing this core. And you could argue that this is going to be a really good chance of them to do something in the postseason with the issues the Lakers are having, the issues the Clippers are having. And the conference is deep, but you could certainly argue that the Jazz are the best overall team in the conference. And with Mike Conley continuing to age, some other contract stuff coming up over the next couple of seasons, and the fact they're going to be paying Rudy Gobert a ton of money, and they've got Donovan Mitchell on a max extension, this is their group. This is their roster, and you could argue this is as good as they're ever going to be, and they're going to start to have some pieces kind of fall off to the side here over the next couple of years just because they're not going to have enough money to pay everybody. This is a huge, huge opportunity for them to do something in the postseason, and I'm hoping that they take advantage of it. Last up now on the list, the New York Knicks. It kind of feels like they're playing with house money at this point, right? They get their home game at Madison Square Garden. The crowd's losing their mind. Unfortunately, they lose a tough game one. But here's why there's a lot of the line. It's in a positive way. For everybody else in this video, it's been kind of a negative thing, right? In a positive way for New York, there is a ton on the line. Because I think there's starting to be some like D'Angelo Russell, Brooklyn Nets vibes here with this Knicks team, where you've got an interesting little group of players that you could see yourself playing with, and they overperform, they make the postseason, and if the Knicks can somehow advance to the second and somehow maybe even the the Eastern Conference Finals, they're going to be gigantic free agency players. Worst case, I think just even if they just win their first round series against Atlanta played well, and the Knicks didn't shoot very well in the first game, whatever the case may be. You could see a situation where, as we talked about earlier, Kawhi potentially comes to New York. Chris Paul has the option to opt out if Phoenix doesn't perform well in the postseason, and a variety of other guys, whether it be this season or next. Unfortunately, the way the money works out, the best off season in which they can go out and get some big-time free agents would be this one, but unfortunately, not a lot of guys kind of matched up their contract with this offseason, unfortunately, for New York. But ultimately, this is a huge postseason for them. I think from a fan base perspective, it feels like you're playing with house money, but from a team building perspective, if you can win a first round series with this roster, you're going to start to attract a lot more attention. There's been a lot of rumors. There's been a lot of momentum towards this idea that New York is becoming a bigger and more seriously taken free agency destination across the league, and that will only solidify that even more if they can perform well in the postseason. They need a better game out of Julius Randle than what they saw in game 1. They're not going to get 27 from Alec Burks again. They need guys to step up. I'm actively rooting for them, quite frankly. I think it's super cool that the Knicks are in the postseason. I love that environment in Madison Square Garden. I found myself rooting for pretty much all the home teams in the first round, except for the Clippers, just because I love Luka. And at the end of the day, I really think there's a huge opportunity for New York. I hope they don't treat it like house money. I hope they take it seriously and try to advance, because it could be huge for the reputation of their franchise. But that is going to be the end of my list. Let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think, if you would add or take off a team, how you would adjust this list personally. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like rating on it. Check me out at various socials and a Linktree link down in the description below. And yeah, hope you guys have an awesome rest of your Tuesday, and I will see you all next time.